All right, we are off and running here on what has become kind of fat loss week a little bit.
Yeah, always a good topic. Always something that's kind of at the forefront. Many times it's at the beginning of the summer that everybody's worried about it, but then by the end of summer, everybody realizes like, oh shit, I need to do it again, or I need to kind of get back on the horse, which is just kind of the ebb and flow of the year too. So it's one of those
Yeah,
things where people sometimes end up beating themselves up over it, but when you can kind of let yourself realize like that's normal. That's why we do all this stuff. Was having a conversation in the gym yesterday morning between myself and Eric, one of our other coaches, and then one of my clients, and we were talking about my trip to Germany.
right.
And he's like, "Oh, I bet you didn't eat any of that schnitzel or bratwurst or whatever." And Eric and I were both like, "Dude, why do you think we do this all the time? Like, so we can go have a miserable vacation?" No, of
Yeah,
course I ate the stuff and drank the beer and enjoyed myself and, don't beat myself up over it. Yeah, I come back and I'm going to be a little bit heavier than I was, a little bit fatter than I was, a little bit slower than I was. But, that's just that's that's what it's about, putting in the time, putting in effort so you can enjoy yourself when the time comes, and then, scaling back when you don't need to. And hopefully you can find those different lines and they don't start to
right.
blur together. And that's when the trouble begins. And then you got to kind of draw the hard line in the sand, which we've talked about so many different times. But if you're constantly in that thought process of, oh my God, I got to be so good, uh, or otherwise I'm just off the rails, then that's where the trouble lies, and that's where you got to put some of the work in to try to balance those things out.
Oh, it's an impossible thing to try to do, or a fool's errand to try and eat perfectly 100% of the time, or work out, perfectly 100% of the time. That's crazy. Um, yeah, that's it's funny. I've heard that so many times, the last 20, 30 years, people saying, you and I are not fans of running. Um, I mean, just personally, not that, sure, there's some good that comes from running, obviously, which is odd for guys who grew up playing soccer. I
Mm,
love running on a soccer field, but just jogging. But like all these guys who I've talked to, who run, they're like, well, I run so that I can drink and eat what I want. I'm like, well, you're not wrong there.
yeah,
I mean, that's, I don't go in the gym every day thinking, yeah, all right, I'm gonna bust out 12 Budweisers, because it
right.
kind of happens to work out that way.
Yeah, and we will talk about some specifics today, just about the strength training versus cardio and the fat burning and how all that plays together, and how really we've been misled in many ways as far as how effective the running and cardio can be. Obviously, there's when you're running for soccer, there's a point to it. There's a reason why you're doing it. But I'd be lying if I didn't say, looking at my Whoop, sometimes it'd be like, okay, today I burned, however many calories in a workout. It's like you then equate that to like you look at like, okay, what is that dietary wise? Like, okay, maybe a beer or that
Right.
sandwich or whatever. And you look at it and it's kind of like that's when you start to look and think like all of these little pieces matter, right? Like all of the things that you put in your face, many times it's very discouraging to see how little your exercise actually accounts for what you're burning off from what you're putting in your body. And many of us
Right.
don't really realize that the activity level, and we'll get into this pretty deep today, hopefully, but the activity level that you put in your workouts is such a small percentage of the actual calories that you burn on a daily and weekly basis. No matter whether you're getting an hour worth of workouts a day, it still ends up being a very small percentage of the amount of calories that you burn. I mean, you think of, I think when I look at my Whoop, I typically burn, I haven't checked all that closely lately, but you know, on a regular day, maybe just me working in the gym, maybe getting a workout somewhere probably around the 2,500 calorie mark. So let's say between 2,000, 3,000 calories.
Yeah.
Well, the amount of calories that I'm going to burn in an actual workout is not even close to that, right?
No,
It's going to be like a good hard. Well, I think that night that we played soccer in 100-degree heat and we were running solidly for like an hour, I think
right.
I think I burned like 500 calories or something like that, 600 calories, and that was extreme.
That's a
Uh,
lot, right?
that was a lot. So you think of the amount of calories that you're burning versus how many calories you can throw into your face with just, like a bad decision, or a night where you're going out and having drinks, or you just eat fast food or something. It's such calorie dense food that that can all be destroyed by a couple little bad decisions there. So um
Oh
but
yeah,
we'll kind of go a little deeper on those things today.
yeah. I think about that quite a bit. I walk like you. I walk every morning, and for like an hour, and then like tomorrow, Friday, it'll be dinner time. Sure, I'll have that 6 ounce IPA. Well, never want that walk
Yep.
like
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
And the IPA didn't last an hour. I can promise you that.
That's for sure. Before we get on to this stuff, let's talk about a couple other things going on. We've got some craziness happening between the Live Tour, the PGA Tour, and specifically that turd Patrick Reed in his
Okay, he sucks.
$750 million lawsuit. I I saw a quote today that said something along the lines of, "It's impossible to file for a defamation of character suit if you never had character in the first place."
That's perfect for Patrick Reed.
I was like, "That's awesome."
What is? Yeah, so explain that to me. Again, I just got the headline on it, but yeah, that guy. I've tried to like him because nobody likes him, and I can't do it.
No,
He is the worst.
it's and I've only read, I think, one half of one article, um, because again, it's all just kind of silliness to me. But he's apparently suing the Golf Channel and Brandel Chambly for defamation of character to the tune of $750 million.
Wow, he thinks a lot of himself.
Yeah, and then in the article, it showed that they brought out part of the evidence was just a list of things that people have screamed and yelled at him on the golf course, and he's claiming that it's because the Golf Channel reported uh, in a not so glowing light of his antics over the years, and it was like people calling him like the shovel and like the trencher and just yelling you suck and like all these different things. It's like, dude, that's not from the Golf Channel reporting. That's because you blatantly cheated and it's on film. Like
Right,
people don't care
many
for that.
times.
People
Right.
don't care for that. So, um, yeah, I don't know if like everybody, if it's just like a laughing stock kind of a thing, or if they really will have to go to court and seriously fight it. And it just seems absurd to me that, and he just continues to dig a deeper hole for his personal brand, his character, and maybe he just loves people hating him.
Yeah, he plays a good villain.
Yeah.
That's for sure. I mean, it's not hurting his bank account. What did he get paid to go over to live? And got a boatload of money to do that.
Yeah. I don't even know what his official number was. I'm sure it was 50 to 100 million bucks or so.
Right. And he's not fun to watch. Sorry.
No. And I'm just curious, how do you get that $750 million number? Like, I don't even know that Tiger Woods could have claimed that kind of crazy cash.
No, and that's again, yeah, there's a lot to unpack there with like the defamation of character. Like if what they're saying is true, you have nothing.
Yeah, we'll have to talk to Uncle Biff, our resident lawyer, our Uncle
A
Brian,
free lawyer.
free
Right.
lawyer, see what his thoughts are. But it's but I think it's interesting. Like I felt like Patrick Reed had been pretty quiet throughout this whole thing, aside from him going on to play the Asian tour events and people asking about that stuff. But he didn't seem to be one of the very vocal guys. Like he just kind of like,
Mm-mm.
I'm gonna go take my 50 mil or whatever, and I'm gonna head over this way. But then I guess I don't know that he was involved in the other lawsuits. I don't know. It's hard to keep track of all of it. Um, but
Oh,
yeah,
it's a
he
mess.
definitely he couldn't stand being the quiet guy. He had to get in the light somehow or another. And I know, and his wife is behind it all somehow. She's like the puppet master.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, she's the one with the Twitter account. Like, well, allegedly.
Yeah,
Uh,
don't sue us for $750 million.
yeah, I don't know what the handle is on the Twitter account, but everybody's like, "All right, cool, Justine, we get it, Justine." Like she was saying, how the master setup doesn't play for. I don't know if he fades or draws a ball or whatever, but like just silly stuff.
Oh my
And
gosh.
it's blatantly always about him and how he was unfairly treated.
Oh yeah, he's a marginalized population, which
Mhm.
probably is true. There aren't that many PGA Tour players.
Right.
He's a victim.
Yeah. So
And
I haven't watched much of the tour this week. I mean, it just started this morning. The what is the BMW this week? I was really hoping to see Hayden get in to this last week. He had a great Saturday. He
and
was 5 under on Saturday, and then
wheels fell off.
wheels fell off on Sunday. I'm very curious. I sent him a couple text messages just to find out. Anytime I've seen him have a round like that, it's usually like something's wrong. And the week before he WD'd with a hand thing going on. So I'm hoping to hear back from him and find out. Hopefully everything's all right.
Yeah, it's not
Because you
like
never
him
know.
to.
Like JJ Spawn also went. I think it was 8 over on Sunday, which so it happens.
Yeah, that's
But
weird though.
anytime I've seen him go like from playing lights out one day to something, the wheels falling off the next day, it just there's typically something physically that ain't right. And that's for most guys too, those guys at that level. I mean, that's a 13 shot swing from one day to the next.
Yeah, what did he have? 6 bogeys and 1 double, or 5 bogeys and 1 double? No
Yeah. So,
birdies.
yeah, something like that. So that ain't him.
No. Oh well, he'll figure it out. He's still young.
Yeah. I mean, all in all, great first rookie season.
Yeah.
You made it to the next year. You've got your card again. And you're moving on. You made some cash, and hopefully he gets some serious sponsors going into this next year now that they know he's the real deal. And so should be fun to watch him over these next couple. I still put my money on him getting a win. I'm going to say this next year he'll have a win under his belt.
That's pretty legit. I mean,
Yeah.
I know he had higher goals this year, but I think the main goal is keep your card
Yeah.
and then go from there. So now he knows how to do that.
Right.
Okay, do that again.
Right. Did you hear the story about Chris Nagel, the local guy? Chris Nagel he's been in a lot of the golf news this week. He's a local guy from St. Louis. We had him on the show quite a while back when he made the US Open the first time. He made the US Open again this year. And then he subsequently, I think, Monday qualified in 4 out of 5 of the PGA Tour Monday qualifiers that he tried to get into. So made it into the 4 tournaments, made the cut in, I don't know if he made it in all of them, but made enough money to get up to number 200 in the FedEx Cup standings.
Holy cow.
Which the top 200 get you into the Korn Ferry Tour finals. So the finals that Hayden played in last year, that I went up to Victoria National and watched the 3rd event of it. There's 3 events. Top 25 of those guys get to go to the PGA Tour.
Right.
But even if you just make the finals, you automatically have Korn Ferry Tour status for next season. Chris Nagel is 39 years old, has never had official Korn Ferry Tour status. He's always pretty much played on the mini tours. He's won, several events or whatever, not Korn Ferry. He's played plenty of Korn Ferry events, played plenty of PGA Tour events because the guy can go super low. Has played in, a bunch of PGA Tour events, made the US Open twice, made the cut in the US Open both times. And so, 39 years old, he's a veteran out there. Apparently the guy just still hits the ball further than almost all the dudes out there. So he gets to number 200. And what happens the week before the FedEx Cup is that Tom Kim, who had no status whatsoever, he ends up winning the Wyndham. And so he wasn't factored in. So he gets thrown up in there and it pushes Nagel down to 201.
Lord.
And so he basically doesn't get his spot. But then I don't know the timeline of this, if people reached out or like sent notes out or whatever and said, well, hey, Bubba has already said he's going to play the live tour.
Right.
Why should he have a spot? So Bubba ends up officially resigning. And there's even a tweet from Bubba saying, I resigned my spot. Hopefully the tour can get this figured out. And long story short, they were able to get Bubba off the list. Nagel gets bumped up. I think they even bumped up another guy. So it all worked out. So he's playing in his first Corn Ferry Tour Finals event this week. So
Hey,
really cool stuff.
Hot. Yeah.
He is a guy that he could go out and win one of these Corn Ferry events and be on the PGA Tour, and life has changed. I mean, life has already changed because now he has status on the Corn Ferry Tour next year. He's not trying to qualify to get in every event. He's got a schedule. That's the big Chris Nagel is his name, Naegel. But that's the thing, like having status allows you to at least set your schedule, so where you're flying each week. You're not going and trying to fly in on Sunday night to play a Monday qualifier, to then play the weekend, to try to top 10, to play the next event. So all of these things have to fall in place. So just that allowed him to at least solidify his schedule. He's going to make some money on the Corn Ferry Tour no matter what next year. And hopefully he's playing on the PGA Tour.
So the Corn Ferry works, the top 25 ranked in the Corn Ferry move up, and then the next 25 who win these tournaments.
These last three events.
Right. The best 25 of those guys also makes it. But I think if you win one of those tournaments, you're automatically in.
Well, if you win, you're automatically going to be at
your
the
points
top
are
of that
so
list.
higher.
Right.
So right.
So I know that they're changing a few things this coming year. I think this year's the same as last. So there's at the end of the regular season, Corn Ferry, 25 guys get their card, right? The top 75 total of the Corn Ferry Tour, those guys all get to go play in the playoffs. So the final three events. But the 75 guys from the PGA Tour are basically number 126 down to 200 in the FedEx Cup rankings, FedEx Cup rankings. Right. They get to come down and play as well. So it's kind of a mix of, like, you'll see a bunch of PGA Tour name guys in there as well. And then, so that's what Hayden made it into last year. And then out of those three events, whoever makes the top 25, they get in to the PGA Tour as well. So 50 guys off the Corn Ferry Tour, or maybe guys that got bumped down from PGA back up. It's all kind of confusing, but
it's so confusing.
I love watching it. I love seeing, like, even this last week on the FedEx Cup, like with a guy making a putt, they show the projected ranking and like where he's going to be and who's sitting on the line. I just think that's super fun to watch.
Oh, for sure. Has Chris Nagel, has he ever trained at the gym?
No.
Or trained with you?
No, his cousin is a fitness pro here, works, I think, more in the football world, but Chris has always just kind of worked with him ever since high school, I think.
Very cool. So Mia Marina asked, is Hayden mentally tough?
Hayden is I would say Hayden is a very strong competitor. So he's like a guy, he loves being thrown into the fire. Like, he loves the big moments and can capitalize on them. He can get a little hot under the collar at times. There's definitely some things that I would love to chat with him about, just from kind of the handling emotion side. Because I don't know that he's working with anybody on that stuff yet. Like, he did mention to me recently that he's been doing a little bit of meditative work and those kind of things, but just observing him out on the course, and this was a year ago when I was out there watching him, he can get if things aren't going his way, he can get a little, get a little hot. Thankfully, his caddy is awesome and it's really good at kind of like putting him back in his place too. And they've just got a great dynamic of working together. So I think that he definitely is mentally tough. Emotions, I guess you could say emotions can run a little high at times, but that can be a good thing too. I mean, I think anybody that's super competitive. I was having a conversation about Chris Nagel with a buddy of his in the gym yesterday. He was just saying how nice of a guy Chris is, and he's like, I'm not sure that he's got that killer instinct. And we were kind of talking about, like Justin Thomas, like you can see Justin Thomas get hot out there. John
Right.
Rahm, I mean, talk
Oh
about
my God.
getting fiery, right? So I feel like Hayden's got a little bit of that in him where like he wants so bad to play his best and to win and almost kind of prove some people wrong. He's always been a little bit of the underdog, so he's got a little bit of that chip on his shoulder. And I think it's cool to see, but at the same time, there's like a line that we've seen golfers in the past cross, like a Sergio, like there's times
Yeah.
where it's like, all right, now
He
you're just
goes over the
now
line.
you're just being a baby, right? Like
Right.
I just saw that clip of him destroying that bunker a couple of years ago.
Over in Saudi Arabia.
Right. And it's like, but I think that, any top level competitor, you watch the Last Dance with Michael Jordan and you just see like, he was a prick sometimes. He was hot headed. But
Yeah.
sometimes that's what the best in the world, that's what they do. That's how they get to be the best in the world. Cause they don't think that they should be losing to anybody. And I know for a fact, so Hayden at least twice played with John Rahm this past year. He played with him in the Phoenix Open,
Phoenix Open, and then
which you were there.
yeah,
and Hayden didn't play well. And then I can't remember what, maybe was it the US Open? Did he play with him?
it was one of the majors.
I think it was the US Open.
Yeah.
And I know for a fact, like that the first time Hayden went out and played with him, like in his head, he's thinking, I can take this guy. And then
Right.
when he didn't play well that day, that's, I think, when he gets really, really like, almost like, what's wrong with me? Why am I not playing the way that I know I can? And so I know for a fact that when he played with him in the US Open and John Rahm came out and again played like John Rahm does, but I know Hayden was gunning for him. Like, I want to get this guy today. And he played well, but he didn't, on that day, he did not beat John Rahm.
But there are some super cool neurohacking techniques that you can have that I'm just learning from this neuroscientist. It's a justice from America. And you bring back your brain instantly. If it takes 20 minutes meditation to get your brain to a certain calmer level, it goes in few seconds. You can, with this neurohacking technique, can bring it back. So when you have a surprise, you hit something really bad and you get really fired up and emotional, you can bring it back by these techniques in a very short period of time. It's amazing what you could do with your brain if you understand how the brain works.
Yeah. And those are the kind of things that any golfer could totally, any of us really could benefit from on a daily basis, right? When something doesn't go our way, but especially out there, I can't imagine the pressure being out there on tour, knowing that, there's not just the people around you watching, but in Hayden's case, when he's playing with John Rahm at the Phoenix Open, there are millions of people watching every shot that you're hitting that day. They played it because the reason he played with him was, I forget who had to back out. I think it was Webb Simpson backed out.
Yep, 100%.
And so Hayden got thrown in with John Rahm on the featured group. So because he was the first alternate. So he wasn't even going to be playing. And then all of a sudden he gets thrown in. So every single shot that he hit that day was on PGA Tour Live. And so, like just being in that setting, knowing that not only, think about how pissed off most of us get, at least initially in our head when we hit a bad shot all by ourselves or with our three buddies. Now put 1 million plus people watching you as well. Oh, and by the way, you're supposed to be super, super good. So you just hit a shitty shot. And now, the mental rabbit holes that we could go down in those situations. And I really do believe it's the guys that know how to to bring those little techniques in, Marina, are the guys that are going to succeed, guys and girls that are going to succeed out there, because they, Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods, they say Tiger Woods, you put him in those pressure situations, his heart rate most likely like slows down. Everybody
Yeah.
else like ramps up. So being able to have those things to lean on when something's not going your way, and you do start to get kind of out of your norm, to be able to bring the heart rate down, or at least get it into a manageable level, get your thoughts right, get your thoughts off of what just happened, and get them onto what you're intending to do next, is super, invaluable, really.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
just read the whole story about a guy who actually qualified on to come onto the Corn Ferry Tour, and his whole week he had exactly stacked out what he was supposed to do. We call it like a emotional sort of mental diet, and everything was stacked out every day for the 7th week. And then the last day was incredible to read. He had written exactly how he did it, and he qualified by 2 shots. Sort of, he was 14 under and 12 under qualified, and it was really interesting to read how he had done it. It was amazing.
If you could find his name, I would love, or find that story. I'd love to read that. If you could send that over to me.
Okay.
And who knows,
Okay.
maybe we could even reach out to him and see if we can get him on the podcast.
Get him on the call. Yeah, and it was funny, the Phoenix Open. So Hayden was playing with Rahm and then Ricky Fowler too. So it's like the group that everybody on the planet wanted to see.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is about 10 or 15 years ago. I was reading the story about Michael Andretti, so Mario Andretti's son, and it was during the race, and they had him hooked up to all the monitors, and so he got into like a bad spot and he knew he was going to crash. So what they do is they cross their arms like this so they don't hurt their wrist.
Mm-hmm.
And they said his heart rate did not go up a bit.
No way.
The guy's going 200 miles an hour or 180, knows he's going to do the impact, but he's so relaxed and so like mentally there. Like they showed the thing, like, oh my God, that guy must be a crazy person.
That is nuts. I mean,
That was wild.
That's training. That's just a special person too. But I mean, the training that those guys go through, holy crap, that's incredible.
Yeah. You ever slam on the brakes and you're not really even that close to hitting somebody, and you can feel your heart jumping out of your chest?
Oh yeah. Or you see a police siren, like lights go on behind you, and even though they pass you by, like even as they're going by, your heart rate is still like thumping.
Right. Even though I know I'm not doing anything, I start thinking like, okay, what did I do wrong?
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of him monitoring, the heart rate and everything, this just kind of fascinated me. We had a call with the SLU the high school soccer coach last night. And he was telling me that the varsity team for the high school, they wear like the tracking system stuff now. It's like
the brassiers. Yeah,
like it's amazing to me that technology has gotten to the point where it's first just so available that they're at that level. They're implementing that kind of tracking. I don't know what all it tracks. I know it tracks their running and how much they run and where they go and different. I assume it also tracks heart rate and things like that. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, so they had those out at the club, and I've seen the even like kids not even that old with them on it. It tracks, I mean, everything you can think of, which is funny because Murphy's coach was talking to Kalish, who was the SLU University soccer coach.
Mm-hmm.
And they had the list of 18 players, and he said there are 4 of you that are properly hydrated. The rest of you are screwing this up. So like they're keeping track of so much stuff.
Oh my gosh,
it's pretty wild, because we got into the subject of nutrition and all that, and then Murphy's coach was telling me that story. I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool. Drink more water, you turkeys.
Yeah. Well, I think maybe this is a segue to kind of get into some of the stuff we wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
With the fat loss, and just kind of some of the misconceptions that many of us have had, many of us have been taught for many, many years. And I mean, Ryan and I might sound like a broken record on here, but that's okay, because we have new people listening to these calls every single week. And I think it's just important to reiterate, because every time you hear some of these different facts, the more you understand, or the more you start to implement, or the more it just kind of like resonates. Because I know that I've heard people talk about what we're going to talk about in many different ways. And until hearing a couple different people and the way they phrased it, some of it didn't quite make sense to me. But basically, the quote that I would love to lead with, and I told you guys about this book, I think last week. It's called The Resistance Training Revolution by Sal DiStefano. Let's see. I'll throw it up there. Resistance Training Revolution. And
Mr. Sal Stefano.
Sal's one of the hosts of podcasts that I haven't listened to in a while, but I used to love it when I did. It was called Mind Pump, and he's like their version of Tony Soib to me. Like, he is just a wealth of knowledge, but has a huge background in training and working with athletes and bodybuilders. And basically, his quote is that focusing on cardio is a fantastic way to fail at fat loss, and it is counterintuitive to pretty much everything that the majority of society believes and is told, or what they do when they decide, oh, I need to get back in shape and I need to lose some weight. Typically, they do two things. They start to severely cut out their calories, and then they decide they need to go do cardio. And basically, the gist of it is that cardio is, it became popular, I don't know, back in I'll say jogging became popular, back in the 70s or so.
Yep.
And it makes sense to think that, like, the more you move, the more energy you're going to expend. And, so that's going to help you lose weight. And to some extent, that's true. Obviously, the more you move, the more calories you burn. And we all know that a big part of the equation is burning more calories than you take in, right? Our bodies are very, very complex, so it's never a one in, one out. It's not that easy. But the key thing to think about here is that our bodies are naturally always trying to get better at whatever we're doing, or maybe a better way to say it is our bodies are trying to become more efficient at what we're doing. And so when you start doing cardio, and for ease of sake, I'm just going to, when I say cardio, let's just talk jogging, running, being on the treadmill kind of cardio, right? Kind of steady state cardio is what we would refer to that as. So initially, when you do that, you start to burn calories that your body's not used to burning, and oh, sweet, I'm starting to lose some weight, because even if you're staying at the same amount of food and calorie input, you're starting to burn more calories. So that's going to help, balance out that equation and in your favor. The problem is cardio is simply energy expenditure for the most part. You're not really going to get any real strength benefits or muscle building benefits from just general cardio. So as your body starts to adapt and starts to become more efficient, your body is basically telling itself, like, hey, this is really hard. We need to get better at saving our energy, aka calories. We need to get better at saving our energy expenditure. And that's what your body does. It gets better. And when I say it gets better, that means it starts to burn less calories with the same amount of work. So what you have to end up doing to then burn the same amount of calories is you need to start running harder. You need to start running farther. You need to start running more often. And so it's like this endless cycle of you're just going to continue to burn more calories or work harder, work longer to get the same benefit. Now, the other huge piece of the equation in this is that your body, kind of says, like, okay, well, what's the most efficient way to save calories? People will always talk about going back to caveman times, and you never knew when you were going to eat, so your body is going to latch on to calories to make sure that you don't starve, because you don't know when your next meal is. times are way different. We have a plethora of food around us at all times. We have more delicious food. We have more calorie dense food. It's way easier for us to take in a lot more calories, but our bodies are still adapting, and our bodies still have this natural tendency to want to get better, get more efficient, and hold on to these calories. And so your body then says, well, what's burning the most calories in this massive tissue? It's muscle. And so if you're only doing cardiovascular work and your body wants to become more efficient and save its ability and save the calories it's burning, it's going to start getting rid of that tissue that is most efficient in burning calories, which are your muscles. Think of your muscles as static calorie burning machines. And so it's like, well, we got to get rid of some of that stuff because it's taking all our energy away. And so you're almost like fighting yourself by simply doing cardiovascular work. Now, I am by no means saying don't ever run, don't ever do cardio, don't ever do HIIT training, because obviously there's cardiovascular benefits to it too. Everything is not about fat loss. But the point here is that if you're only doing cardio, you're basically teaching your body how to get better and become more efficient, which most people think efficient is good, right? Like a slow metabolism is efficient because it burns calories slowly. So if you told somebody they said, I have a slow metabolism, you say, oh, that's really efficient. Like that doesn't make any sense. Usually efficient means good, but in this case, that's not necessarily true. So what the priority needs to be when you're trying to burn fat in a training program is really focusing more on the muscle building and really the strength building, which ultimately leads to building bigger muscle fibers, building bigger muscles, because that has so many more benefits on top of just the fat burning phase. But building the muscle is basically going to build a static fat burning machine. So the more muscle you have, and again, I'm not talking Arnold Schwarzenegger muscle. All of us can stand to have a little bit more muscle mass on us. Or I shouldn't say all of us, but for the most part, we can all stand to have a little bit more muscle mass. But if when you decrease the amount of fat on your body, you're basically going to shrink your body, build a little more muscle mass. So it's not like you're going to get huge by building muscle mass. You're going to end up losing some of the fat that you have as well. So that takes care of itself. In fact, that's what ends up making you look better and feel better about the way that you look. If you're only losing weight via cardio, you're going to look the same, just smaller, because you're not changing your muscle tone. You're not changing the size of your muscles. You're not changing, basically you're just creating a smaller version of yourself. And we've all seen that. You've seen somebody who has lost weight by simply decreasing calories and starting on cardio. Look at any kind of long distance runner, look at, anybody that you've seen go through this process and not do it through strength training. They don't necessarily look, most people say, oh, you look good, you look thinner, but they don't necessarily look stronger and healthier. And I would say that for the most part, that's what we're all trying to or what we're all trying to do is get stronger and healthier. And maybe the descriptor would be more fit. And that's what you're going to get when you're focusing more on the strength component than focusing on the cardio component.
Well, and I think that where we go wrong is everybody wants to lose the fat so fast. So it's like, I don't care if I look fit or, toned or whatever. I just need to get this weight off. So it doesn't matter how I do it. And then I'll work on the strength. Then I'll work on getting, that look that you really, really want. But first things first, let me go down a belt notch, feel a little bit better about myself. And again, that's not the most efficient way to do it. Cardio, which has been sold forever, which it seems so odd that people have been selling it because I guess there are a lot of ancillary products, jogging, and it's a pretty big business.
Yeah, and there's a couple factors there. Jogging is really easy to do, right? Like there's no barrier to entry. You just walk outside and you just start moving your legs a little bit faster. You know, for resistance training, you at least need a little bit of equipment. You know, body weight is great, but you know, truly to have any variety, you need some equipment, some bands, kettlebells, dumbbells, then maybe a gym. You know, then you need. So it's
You also need a plan if you're gonna do those things.
right.
Or
Yeah,
jogging. Just,
yeah,
I'm
like
gonna go jog for 30 minutes. Great.
right. Yeah, and there's no. I mean, literally, that's it. I'm just gonna go move faster. I'm gonna start walking, then I'm gonna move faster than that. So you
Right.
know, like there's no, and that's a problem too, because I can't tell you how many times I'm driving down the street and I watch somebody running, and my physical therapy brain naturally, like if any of you walked in, let's not even say in here, if I met, and if I meet you, don't think that I'm doing well. I probably will be
Yes,
doing
he's
this.
judging you
I'm going to be
immediately.
judging you. Like I watch people walk. I watch how they move. I watch, you know, like that's just when I was in the airport, when I was on vacation, it's like, I just naturally will see somebody and be like, man, like there's either something up with their hip or their knee or, you know, their shoulder or, you know, like I'm always just kind of, because I'm fascinated by it. But then I'll be driving down the street and I see somebody running, and I don't know who said it, but the quote goes something like, running's not bad for your knees, bad running is bad for your knees, right? And so like
Mhm.
if you're running down the street and I see people with bad gait patterns, you know, you can tell that they've never had any coaching on running. Not that everyone needs coaching, but like sometimes I'll watch somebody and I'll see what's going on with their knee and I'm like, man, that's, if they aren't having pain yet, they're going to have pain in the next couple of years, or like that person is definitely going to have a knee replacement in the next 5 to 10 years just by watching the way that their knee buckles a little bit. And so I see folks try to go out and start running as their mode of exercise. And when I see that, I know that that's only going to end up leading to them quitting because it hurts or they injure themselves, and then they won't have something else to fall back on, or they won't be able to do some sort of a better training program because they're going to be injured or because it's already been too late. I know our buddy Brian Bradley from the Egoscue Clinic. I have literally seen him walk up to a stranger and ask them like about their injury, and he'll have them do like a little like positioning reset kind of a thing, and they'll be like, all right, how does it feel now? And they're like, whoa, that's way better. And
Right.
then, you know, and he's like, look, there, you need to get this figured out and go to Egoscue and, you know, go read Pete's book. um but you know, like that's because, and that's how we all kind of see it, like, and Brian's, I mean, super, super high level at being able to just look at somebody and be like, all right, this person needs this. Um, but yeah, so running can be, it's really easy to do, but that can be detrimental as well. And it can be tough for somebody to just go out and do that. But the other factor is, I think that, you know, when running, you also immediately feel like you're getting something done, you know, or you go and you just do cardio, you sweat. And we've talked
Right.
about this. You're panting, like it's hard, like, ooh, man, that had to be good for me because that was hard for me to do. And so you feel that immediately. And then you get a little bit of results. Whereas strength training, first of all, there's some coaching and cueing that might be involved. Again, like you said, like, I don't know what to do. You know, I have no idea what I'm doing going in the gym. So there's that a little bit of that fear and awkwardness factor, um, which is why I think it's so important to, you know, to find somebody that you can trust, that you can watch, you know, like us or other pros that we are friends with, or, you know, a coach in your area that can teach you some of the basics. Because you're right, there is a bit of a learning curve to get there in order to start to see some of those results. But that's why we always say start super simple. You know, start very simple with what exercises you're doing, and get good at them. But when you have that intention of building up your strength, that's going to build up your muscles. That's going to basically just exponentially increase your ability to burn calories, not just during your workout, but throughout your day. In fact, your workout calories burned will not be as much as if you just went and ran on the treadmill. But over the course of time, you're slowly not just building up the amount of calories that you can burn in your workout or even after your workout, but because you're building the muscles, it's like you're constantly throwing a little more coal on the fire, and it's just going to burn a little hotter for longer.
Yeah, the bigger the engine, the more it's going to burn.
The more it's going to burn, the more fuel you're going to have to use, right?
Yeah, which we're talking about. That's kind of the afterburn effect, where when you stop your cardio, you stop burning calories more or less. But when you're
Right.
Pumping iron, your body naturally. And I read your email today that the National Institute of Health said you can still be burning calories for the next 38 hours. So let's just call it 24 hours until you get to the next one and the next one. So you're constantly burning calories when you're strength training. And
Right.
I think a lot of this is, we go back to, training with a purpose. Why are you doing what you're doing now? Jogging is, we all learned when we played soccer or basketball or whatever, that endurance. So we were actually training with a purpose back then. And then now we don't have that purpose. Our purpose has changed, and now it's fat loss or golf or, whatever your goal is.
Yeah. And that's where the strength component provides so much of the typical goals that we all have, whereas cardio, like, that provides one mode. It burns energy. Strength training is going to do multiple things, right? Strength training is going to, first of all, get you stronger. I mean, by definition, strength training will get you stronger. So that's one thing that most people want to do, is get stronger. Golfers, you get stronger, you're going to have a better base of support. You're going to hit the ball further. You're going to be more resilient to injuries. Strength training also ends up helping you burn more calories. So it helps with fat loss, right? Strength training allows you to get better at moving your joints through ranges of motion. So it's going to help you with your mobility. So there's all these different things that strength training tackles. We like to use the quote from Tony that strength training is the mother of all athletic qualities, right?
Right.
I'm reading that functional training book by Mike Boyle, and I forget the exact quote, but he basically said that strength should be your number one purpose and goal because it leads to everything else for an athlete. In fact, I posted a picture on Instagram that I was reading his book, and he retweeted it. So here's a little secret: if you want to get in touch with somebody on Instagram and you see them post something, that's when you message them right then, because you know that they're on their phone. So he retweeted that, and I just sent him a note and I said, "Hey coach, thanks for reposting. Would love to have you back on the show sometime." And he replied back, "Let's do it." So we're gonna have Mike Boyle on the show in the near future.
Excellent.
But the whole point is that the strength training provides the opportunity to reach so many of the goals that we all have, whether that be for increasing your ability to create speed in your golf swing, increasing your ability to balance in your golf swing, increasing your ability to walk longer, because as you walk, the more force you're able to put through the floor or the ground, the better your strides are. The more efficient your stride is, the better you're able to walk. You're able to walk longer. Your muscles are able to handle it longer. So strength is kind of the umbrella or basically kind of the base of the pyramid, if you will, that helps to feed all of these different goals that we have. Even, as specific as you want to get, it all starts with building strength. I mean, if you could only do one thing, you should focus on that, because it's going to help achieve some of the different goals that you have.
Right. And looking better, which we all want.
Right. Right. I mean,
not just the functional stuff that we're after, but yeah, man, I like to check myself out in the mirror in the morning.
It does it all. It's like a Swiss Army knife,
That's true.
One of the quotes that Sal had in this book was that almost half of the weight that people lose from cutting calories alone is muscle mass.
Oh my gosh. That's a huge percentage.
That's why we've talked about this when we were talking about, body fat percentages and stuff like that, that measuring your weight, like just checking your weight on the scale it's helpful. But if you have the ability to get on a machine that can calculate your lean muscle mass or even just your body fat percentage, that gives you a much better idea of how well your training is going. Because if your muscle mass is going up and your weight is going down, that's a great combination,
Right.
That's going to mean that your body weight or your body fat percentage is definitely going to go down. If your weight is staying the same and your muscle mass is going up, your body fat percentage is still going down.
Mhm.
Now, if your weight is staying the same and your muscle mass is going down, your body fat percentage is going up. And what happens often is that when people just cut calories and just start doing cardio, their weight starts to go down, but their muscle mass also starts to go down. So they might just stay at the same, or sometimes they might even tip the scales to where they've lost weight, but they've lost more muscle mass and their body fat percentage increases. So there's nothing more devastating to a client that comes into a training facility. Well, I can't say nothing, but when they come in and they say, man, we checked my body fat percentage and it was 25% last time. And I came in and I lost 10 pounds, but my body fat percentage went up to 27. It's
Yeah.
like, that's no bueno, right? So you have less muscle mass. Yeah, you weigh less, so your clothes might fit a little better. You might look a little better, but it's like, you mean I'm fatter? I'm lighter and fatter? Like
Skinnier,
for
fatter. Skinny,
for a
fatter.
guy, that's a tough thing to swallow.
Yeah, I got less muscles. Ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I almost threw up in my mouth a little bit. That's a bad place to be.
And then just a couple other pieces that, most of you have likely heard, but just benefits of building in the strength training is just, the health for not just your muscles, but your bones, building up the density of your bones, because the more weight you put through them, the more they're going to have to solidify. It's going to help prevent things like osteopenia, osteoporosis, and also just from a hormonal factor, your muscles really help to, the work that you put in to build your muscles help to designate hormone responses in your body, specifically testosterone. And we know for a fact that the testosterone levels of the average male have plummeted in the last, I don't know how many years, 5 to 10 years. And there's many different reasons for it. Many people think there's some studies that are showing it's likely because of some of the stuff that's in our, in our environment, plastics in our
Right,
water,
plastics, I
and
keep hearing.
chemicals and things like that. But one of the best ways to combat that is to lift heavy things, specifically doing strong lower body strength training exercises is going to help increase your testosterone levels, increase your growth hormone factors. And that's something that women need as well. We think of women and having low amounts of testosterone as being a good thing, but to a certain extent, in order to achieve muscle mass and strength, levels in women's testosterone level can often be raised a little bit too in a safe manner. And strength training is especially important for women because they tend to lean more towards the lighter weights, the flexibility kind of stuff. But who's most likely to develop osteopenia, osteoporosis? Typically, when you hear of that, you hear women as they're aging developing those kind of issues more so than males. And so building up the muscles, building up the strength in order to really support and prevent injuries and issues like that is huge factor. And for a sport where you can go play this sport until you're 75, 80, 90 years old, you want to be able to think of this as the long haul prevention, not just, for the next couple of years.
Yeah, for sure. And the girl excuse has always been, I don't want to get too bulky, which again, we talk about that all the time. It's like,
Right.
it ain't gonna happen.
It ain't gonna happen. It ain't gonna happen.
Now, do girls take steroids? Like bodybuilder girls?
Oh yeah.
I mean, she shall remain nameless. I've seen a couple girls who look like they are juicing.
Yeah. I'm I have had no real experience in the bodybuilding world, but I'm sure there's some stuff that goes on behind those curtains for sure.
Yikes.
On both, both male and female, obviously.
Oh, yeah, like a guy, it's pretty obvious that dude's on steroids.
Yeah.
Again, when you can't fix your collar,
Right.
your arms are way too big. Yeah, let's not take the strength training too far.
Right. So one last thing that I wanted to mention here when it comes to being most efficient at doing this, because so often we kind of get roped into strength training and exercises and what's the best exercise and what should I be doing, and we get caught in this area where we want our exercise, we want our training to have like a ton of variety to it and be creative and be exciting and not get boring. But sometimes the most beneficial way to do it is think of it as practicing some of the strength training exercises. So that's why it's so important to have some of the bigger pieces in your program. That's why we always talk about deadlifts and lunges and some sort of squats and hinges and pushes and pulls and things like that. So as much as we love to find the different fancy exercises and mix things up, and we do that for different reasons too. As golfers, we have to move in a lot of different directions. But there's some exercises like different pressing variations or things like that where it's hard to build up any true resistance unless you're like, let's look at like lower body exercises, because I see people doing like a bunch of different styles of lunges and things like that. But at some point you have to just get good at just lifting weight in that motion, right? In order to be able to put increased resistance, progressively overload, get stronger at whatever it is. So don't be afraid to do the same exercises in your program multiple times. A deadlift, a barbell deadlift, a hex bar deadlift, like those kind of things can be repeated. And I fall into this trap when I'm working with clients of mine, simply because I know that, some of them just get bored with the exercises. But if you think about like practicing your technique, practicing getting better at a deadlift or a split squat and doing it with more weight as you're able to do it, you're going to be able to build more strength. You're going to be able to build more muscle. That's going to help with your fat burning properties and be able to basically expend more energy because you have better, stronger, more efficient muscles, right? So think of it sometimes as practicing your training. We talked about this last week of training rather than exercising. Don't think of it as just exercising. Think of it as training. Well, think of practicing in that training. Think of getting better at some of those specific things. I mean, there have been several programs that I've done. It was the most boring program I've ever done. It was one day I did deadlift, hex bar deadlift, and it was every minute on the minute I did a deadlift, like a heavy deadlift, and I did it for 50 minutes. So 5-0, set a timer every minute, look, and then did the same thing for squats, did the same thing for pull-ups, and did the same thing for bench press. Talk about a boring ass workout that I did for 4 weeks straight. But I'll tell you what, I got some work done and I got strong, and that was one of those times where I got pretty lean. So it doesn't have to look fancy. It doesn't have to be this exceptionally designed program. It's like, no, just get better at doing the things that are most important. So just wanted to
I agree. So explain that again. So every day you would pick a different exercise, and for 15 minutes you just do one every day.
Mm-hmm. It was a Tony Soy program.
Oh, of course it was.
It was I think it was 4 days a week, and I did one day was my push, one day was my pull, one day was my hinge, one day was my squat.
Good.
And repeat.
That's
repeat.
Yeah. That's more of a mental exercise.
It was absolutely a mental exercise as well. It was.
Damn you, Tony Soy.
It was very interesting, but I got strong in all those lifts. That's for sure.
Not bad. All right, very good. Good way to end it there. MF and Tony Soy again.
Always good. Always good.
for
All
being
right, guys.
creative.
Great to see you guys again. And always fun to have our Q&A calls. So we'll be doing it again next Thursday. We'll see you then.
Good. All right, see you, Marina.
Stay strong.